Yo, what's good, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video. Today we have our official March Madness bracket predictions. Sorry I haven't posted a video in a little bit, but make sure to be more consistent. And yeah, obviously March Madness. No one's ever created a perfect bracket before, so that is not going to be my goal today. You know, actually I'll take that back. I'm gonna try to create the first perfect bracket there's ever been in March Madness. Yeah, should be an exciting one. Obviously there is the news that most of the bubble teams did not end up making it into the tournament because of all the bid stealers, including teams like Duquesne as the 11 seed, UAB as the 12 seed. We got NC State as the 11. You know, teams who should not have won their conference tournament, or not should not have, but weren't favored to, but did end up winning it, so they had to get in. Same thing with Oregon too. I don't know where they are located at the 11 slot right there, and I think that is probably it for right now. I think there was like 5 or 6 who did it, so yeah, definitely interesting. Obviously, NC State's amazing run. We'll see if I have them going past the first round. I'm going to start off with the East side because they do have the #1 overall seed in UConn, and I think they're going to be able to get past Stetson. It's going to be a game in Brooklyn, so obviously I do expect the UConn fans to travel extremely well, considering Stetson is in Florida, and UConn, obviously, University of Connecticut. Have UConn win that one. That one should be pretty easy. Next up, we have Florida Atlantic versus Northwestern. I'm not exactly sure where this game is. There is a preview. Obviously, it's in Barclays as well. I mean, that was just, I could have guessed that one because they're going to be playing in Barclays for the round of 32 as well. I do really like Bo Buie, obviously, of Northwestern, and I don't think that Florida Atlantic deserved an 8 seed. I think they should have been a bubble team at maybe a 10 or 11 seed, but they got up at 8. I think that is definitely partially due to their early season success / last season success on making the Final Four. I think I'm actually going to lean Northwestern with this one. I think FAU, overly seeded, not as good as they were last year in my opinion. I know they do have similar seeding, but yeah, this team, the performance in the American Conference was just not good. Where last year they were able to run through their conference, then had a great time in the NCAAs as well. This year, I guess a little upset here. I'm going to take Northwestern over FAU. Next up, we have San Diego State, so the third Final Four team from last year in the same side of the bracket, versus UAB, one of the bid stealers I mentioned before. I'm going to take San Diego State there. No one on UAB is going to be able to stop Jaden Ledee, and I think that's really what it's going to come down to. Overall, it should be maybe a little bit more of a low-scoring game, but defensively wise, San Diego State, I think, will take it over UAB, even though this could possibly be one of the games where we could see an upset. So, SDSU over UAB. Next up, we have Auburn and Yale. I think over the last couple of weeks, Auburn has probably been a top 10 team in the country. Very surprised they ended up with the 4 slot. I was expecting them as the 3 seed. I think in the AP poll, I'm for sure, I know that they're top 10 in the AP poll, but ended up sliding in at 4. Didn't make so much sense. Obviously, we know they did win the SEC, so I thought that by itself should get them up to 3. But this Auburn team, if anyone in this East region, honestly, I think this Auburn team has the best chance to upset UConn when it comes to the Sweet 16. But I'm going to have Auburn take Yale. Obviously, Yale, should talk about them somewhat. Had the game-winning layup over Brown in the championship game. Brown was 13-17, so probably should not have got to that point. But Yale made it, but I do have them losing to Auburn in the first round. Next up is BYU and Duquesne. Duquesne, another bid stealer. And I think this is maybe one of the spots where I take the upset. Duquesne, an amazing run to win the A10. And I think they're definitely a team that's built for March Madness, who can maybe make a Sweet 16, possibly even Elite 8 run. I know the bottom half of this East region is really good with Drake, I like, Illinois, of course, and Iowa State. I think I could see an upset, but I'm going to stay BYU. That offense just runs so perfectly. One of the best offenses in the nation, at least in my opinion, or at least the sets, the motions that they run. It's nice to watch BYU basketball, to be honest. So I'm going to take them over Duquesne, but I think this should be a really good game. Next up, we have Illinois and Morehead State. Illinois has been playing, similar to Auburn. They've been playing like one of the best teams in the country. Terrence Shannon Jr., should have been first team All-American. Next up, we have Washington State and Drake. This is going to be another upset. I'm going to have Drake over Washington State. Now, I don't throw around this often, but I think Tucker DeVries is one of the best players in the country. Obviously, his father coaching him as well, so, you have a little bit of a storyline there. And on Washington State side of things, obviously Drake, another bid stealer, was able to win the MVC, the Missouri Valley Conference, or, their conference tournament was called Arch Madness. Able to beat Indiana State, a team I wish got in, but they weren't able to. Washington State, though, a lot of credit to Kyle Smith for the transformation he has done throughout that program, because they went from one of the worst teams in the Pac-12 to a team who was the second seeded in the Pac-12 tournament, and at one point almost had the first seed in the Pac-12 tournament. So great job by Kyle Smith, but I do think that Drake and Tucker DeVries are going to be able to get it done. Iowa State is not losing to South Dakota State. Next up, we're going to have the South region. We have Houston and Longwood. I'm not going to have any 1 through 16 upsets. I'm going to say that right now. Houston, best defense in the country. They should probably be a Final Four team. Next up, we have Nebraska and Texas A&M. Probably would look at a little bit of a preview here. Kelsai Tuminaga, the Japanese Steph Curry. I'm going to assume I pronounced that wrong. But he's very fun to watch. But on the Texas A&M side, I think this team is starting to get hot at the right moment. Early on in the season, Texas A&M started off great. Midway, had some cold streaks, and honestly, they ended the season at 20-14. So not a great record, but they had a really good SEC tournament. I think they do deserve to be in the tournament, or in the NCAA tournament. I'm going to have them take Nebraska and have them advance to the round of 32. Next up is Wisconsin and James Madison. A lot of people are predicting James Madison to upset Wisconsin in this game. I believe this is also a Brooklyn game at the Barclays Center. Indeed it is. This should be a very fun game. You know what? I'm going to go against the grain here. I know a lot of people are going to be picking James Madison. I mean, by the percentages, it's not, can I see the percentages of how many people are picking these guys? I thought I was able to do it on the other ones, but I guess not here. Yeah, I'm going to take Wisconsin, though. Obviously, another team who ended the season great. Also another team who had their ups and downs during the season. Started off great, got to be what? Were they a top 10 team at one point, maybe even top 6? Then they fell off a little bit. But the conference tournament really brought them back, and I think there is a chance that if this Wisconsin team gets to the Sweet 16, they could give Houston some problems. But despite the fact everyone wants to pick the upset, I'm going to take Wisconsin over James Madison. Yeah. Next up, we have Duke and Vermont. This is going to be Duke. I'm excited to see these young players perform in March Madness. Obviously, Jared McCain. You got Kyle Filipowski. I guess Tyrese Proctor, even though you don't really see what everyone likes about him. Second round pick at best. I have Duke beating Vermont and going to the second round against Wisconsin. Next up is Texas Tech, NC State. I'm going to ride the NC State wave here. DJ Burns, such a fun player to watch in the post. Yeah, he's just been great through the 5-game stretch that North Carolina State won. More games won at the Capital One Center than the Wizards have this year. NC State has played there for 5 games. The Wizards have played there for, 30-something at this point? NC State, 5 wins. Wizards only have 4. I'm going to have NC State carry on their momentum and get to the second round, but it will not be an easy one, as I have Kentucky advancing as well. Next up, Florida versus Boise State or Colorado. If I'm not mistaken, Florida does have a big man who is injured. Looks like Micah Hangleton, something like that. Injured. He fractured his leg, so he's probably not going to come back the rest of the season. I'm going to lean Boise State / Colorado. I have Colorado winning the first 4 games, then beating Florida. I really like that team. And I'm going to have them advance to take on Marquette. So that is the east and south side of the bracket. It's time to move on to the west side. First, North Carolina. Like I said, not going to pick any 1 versus 16s to be an upset. Next, I'm actually going to go Tom Izzo in Michigan State. It's very rare you see Tom Izzo lose in the first round in March Madness, and I don't think that will happen now. AJ Hoggard and Tyson Walker, that backcourt is very intriguing to me. When Michigan State makes their runs, they've had good backcourt players, obviously with Cassius Winston a couple years ago. And hopefully Michigan State can bring on or, carry the same magic they had before and I do like them. I like the matchup against North Carolina, possibly an upset in the second round too. Up next, we have St. Mary's and Grand Canyon. I'm going to take the upset here. St. Mary's ended up winning the West Coast Conference, but I think this team has so many holes. Not holes, but they're not a strong team. Not as strong as last year when they made it to the round of 32, then lost to UConn. They really just don't have the go-to guy. Aiden Mahaney was supposed to be it, but he's kind of been disappointing this season. Obviously, a lot of great role players around their main guy, I guess, in Aiden Mahaney. You have good shooters. Yeah, overall, it's a well-built team, but I think without a main guy, it's going to be hard to survive deep into March Madness. I'm going to have Grand Canyon take the upset here. The 29-4 Grand Canyon, by the way. Also, Grand Canyon, one of the most, how do I put it, consistent teams in college basketball over the last 4 years. I think they've made the tournament 3 out of the last 4 years, which is very impressive for a team not in the Power 6. So, Grand Canyon to the second round, an upset over St. Mary's. Next up, we have two great offenses in Charleston and Alabama. I think Alabama is just the better offense at the end of the day. This is going to be a high-scoring game where I think there's a chance Alabama can hit the 100s. I'm going to have Alabama over Charleston. We could see a score like 109 to 89 or 109 to like 95, a score like that. I think there's going to be a lot of offense in that game, but when it comes to offense, I'll lean Alabama. Next up is Clemson, New Mexico. Here's another one I'm going to take. I'm going to take New Mexico over Clemson. Jalen House, the son of Eddie House, and Jamal Mashburn, the son of Jamal Mashburn, are both on New Mexico. And that's not the reason I'm picking them. They're able to win the Mountain West and able to snag a bye or, I guess, an auto bid. And I think they just really stand well next to Clemson, where I think Jalen House, or the guard skills in general, I think New Mexico, like their backcourt, is some of the best in all of college basketball. So I'm going to have New Mexico take Clemson and get to the second round against Baylor. Next up, I'm going to have Nevada take Dayton. I think Dayton ended the season on a very, very sour note, and Nevada should just be able to take advantage of that. By the way, Nevada, in my opinion at least, low-seeded. I think there's a scenario where Nevada actually ends up as the 7th seed and Dayton ends up as the 10th seed. I think Dayton's also a little bit too hot. So I'm going to take Nevada in this game. I think that overall they're the more well-built team, and I think very disrespectful at that 10th spot. Next up, I'm going to have Arizona take over Long Beach State, who have a pretty nice story. I mean, the coach that apparently will be let go after this season took them all the way to March Madness as a very low seed in their conference tournament. So maybe they'll get some magic and get a win over Arizona, but I'm not going to have it. Next up, we have the Midwest. I'm going to take Purdue in the first round. After Purdue, we have Utah State versus TCU. Might look at a little bit of a preview here. I guess, what is this? Notable results. We have Utah State wins over teams like Boise State. Swept Boise State. Also have wins over SDSU, New Mexico. Obviously, the Mountain West is a great conference. We're going to see teams split basically every game. For TCU, have a win over Houston, which is very interesting. Also win over Baylor. But after that, not so great. I think I'm going to take TCU in this game. Really can go either way. It's an 8-9 matchup. But, I'm just feeling TCU. Sometimes when you're making brackets, you got to go with your gut. And my gut is saying TCU over Utah State. Next up, Gonzaga and McNeese. I want to bring McNeese very badly to the round of 32, but it's just like there's no way Mark Few loses in the first round. Really doesn't matter what team he has. If you want to say this is the worst skilled team he's had at Gonzaga since I don't even know what year, you can make that argument. But at the end of the day, Mark Few's a great coach. He'll find a way to get into the second round, even if it's against a very talented McNeese team. Next up we have is Kansas at Stanford, or not at Stanford, they're playing at a neutral site. But this is also an interesting one. Obviously we know Kevin McCullough and Hunter Dickinson are questionable for the game. I do imagine they play because at the end of the day, it's March Madness, you got to get your guys in. But, there is definitely a lot of questions about this game. I'm going to take Kansas. I'm also kind of confused why in their notable results, I don't see UConn here, the number one team in the nation. so I'm a bit surprised why they're not part of the notable results. But Samford, strength of victories, or strength of schedule in general, it's not amazing. 98-45 to Purdue. Kind of is going to make me want to take Kansas with that one. Next up, we have South Carolina, Oregon. I'm going with Oregon. They're a big stealer. I like their big depth, and especially, I believe Nafali Dante, is that his name? Indeed. He's having an amazing stretch of games stemming from the Pac-12 tournament, and now hopefully he can carry it on to March Madness, where I have them upsetting South Carolina. I'm going to have Creighton win that game. I'm going to have Texas win this game, and Tennessee rounding out the Midwest section of the bracket. We're finally to the second round, where I have UConn versus Northwestern. I'm going to go UConn. Next up, we have Auburn, San Diego State. Recency, the way these teams entered March Madness, I think Auburn just has so much more momentum. I can't see San Diego State really slow down the game, maybe win a game that's 60-55 or 63-54, something along those lines. But I do trust Auburn a little bit more. I think Auburn, like I said before, one of the hottest teams in the country, and in my opinion, one of the best teams in the country. Just unfortunate they had to get matched up with UConn. I think if they don't match up with UConn, there's a chance this team can make the Final Four. But it's going to be hard to get past the Huskies. Next up, we have BYU, Illinois. Similar thing to Auburn. I'm going to have Illinois continue their momentum and head into the Sweet 16. And I'm going to have Iowa State over Drake. This should be another great game if it does happen. But, yeah, I'm going to take Iowa State, the Cyclones. In my opinion, they should have been a 1 seed over North Carolina. But another team who got, unfortunately, seeded against, or in the UConn's bracket. So it should be hard for them. But I'm going to have them get to the Sweet 16 against Illinois. Next up, we have Houston and Texas A&M. I'm going to go with the best defense in the country. After that, we do have Wisconsin and Duke. I'm going to go Wisconsin. I'm not going to put all my trust into John Shire right now. In my opinion, not an amazing coach. But, this Duke team has a lot of talent. So to lose this game would be definitely very interesting. But, you know what? Can I take it back? Obviously, I could take it back. I could switch it. But, this is definitely interesting. I could see Wisconsin or Duke. I think I'm going to lean... I'm going to stick with Wisconsin, I think. This is my official bracket, so I want to get it right. Wisconsin, Duke. I'm going to go Duke. No, I'm going Wisconsin. I'm going to go Wisconsin. Continue their momentum. Didn't win the Big Ten championship, but they had an amazing tournament, knocking off Purdue and other great teams along the way. Next up, we have NC State, Kentucky. I'm going to have NC State's Cinderella run end here. 6 straight wins. I'm going to consider that a Cinderella run, considering that they were nowhere close to making the tournament before the ACC tournament. But now, they did. So I'm going to consider it a Cinderella run. I think NC State had a great end to the season, but I'm going to have this young, strong talent of Kentucky prevail. Next up, I'm going to have Colorado versus Marquette. I'll leave Marquette for that one. Next up is North Carolina and Michigan State. I'm going to have a 9-1 upset. I'm going to have Michigan State over North Carolina. This North Carolina team has a lot of weaknesses, in my opinion. Like I said before, I don't think they deserve to get at the 1 spot. I think it should have been Iowa State. But at the end of the day, they are a 1 seed. So this is definitely an upset. I'm going to have Michigan State over North Carolina for the round of 32. Next up is Alabama, Grand Canyon. I'm going to have Alabama take that one. After we have New Mexico and Baylor. Give me New Mexico. Continue the run with Jalen House and Jamal Mashburn. This New Mexico team is very fun to watch. If you haven't been able to watch them yet, go watch some highlights because you're going to fall in love with this team very quick. I'm going to have Arizona beat Nevada in the battle of the Southwest state teams, I guess. North Carolina, Nevada. I guess Nevada is definitely more of a Western team than Southwest, but you understand what I mean. The mountain terrain teams, I guess, or the desert. Next up, we have the Midwest. I'm going to have Purdue get the win over TCU. After that, Gonzaga, Kansas. These 5-4s are so tough. I'm going to go with Kansas. If Kevin McCullough and Hunter Dickinson are at full strength, we saw earlier in the season, this Kansas team is one of the best teams in the country. It's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard, but I'm going to lean Kansas for this game. Similar to what I said with St. Mary's earlier, I don't really know if Gonzaga has their go-to guy. You have a bunch of great veterans. Anton Watson, obviously. You got Nemhard, the brother of Ryan Nemhard, the brother of Andrew Nemhard, who was on the Pacers. You have Graham Ike, who's a good center, but I don't really know if he's a go-to guy. I think, but for Kansas, obviously, you got Kevin McCullough. You got, obviously, at the big man position, you got Hunter Dickinson, one of the best big men in the nation. This would be a great matchup, by the way, a big man matchup between Ike and Dickinson. But I'm going to lean Kansas. This is definitely hard. I mean, I could see Kansas lose in the first round, but I can also see them possibly making a Final Four run as well. Very talented team. We'll see if they put it together. Next up is Oregon versus Creighton. I think I might want to go with the upset here. I guess I can do a bit of a preview. If I pick, does it? Okay, it doesn't show the percentages. I thought it said for that earlier. But obviously,
Selection Saturday morning.
I don't know what that is. Some video was playing. I was able to stop it. But I think I'm going to go with the Ducks with this one. Have them beat, where is the game? Actually, no. I'm going to go Creighton. I'm not going to go Creighton to the Final Four, but I'm going to have Creighton beat Oregon. Could really go either way. You know what? I'm going to go Oregon, actually. A little bit of an upset there. Have 2 11 seeds in the Sweet 16. Or in the Elite. No, in the Sweet 16, yeah. Next up, we have Texas, Tennessee. I mean, it could be a great game. Obviously, Rick Barnes returned to Texas. Tennessee or Texas this could really go either way, in my opinion. Obviously, Tennessee not known for being the greatest March team, but it's going to be hard to pick against. Don't connect. I'm going to lean Tennessee with this game. Think they're definitely the more well-ran team. Texas, a lot of bumps during the season. At one point, didn't even know if they're going to make the tournament, but they were able to close it out pretty well. Now we're picking in the Sweet 16. I'm going to have UConn over Auburn. I think they're the best team in the nation. Next, we have Illinois, Iowa State. I'm going to have Iowa State barely. I mean, I think that these UConn and Iowa State are two of the best teams, two of the best or top 4 teams in the country. So, obviously, it does make a lot of sense that they are sitting here in the Elite 8. But at the end of the day, when you look at Iowa State, just more of a complete team than Illinois. If Terrence Shannon Jr. gets shut down, obviously you do have Marcus Domask and Coleman Hawkins, who are good pieces to go next to him. But I don't know how far this Illinois team goes if someone has a Terrence Shannon Jr. stopper. I'm not saying Iowa State does, but I am saying overall, better talented team. I'm going to have them beat Illinois to get to the Elite 8. Next up is Houston and Wisconsin. I'm going to go Houston. Not really too much to say about that. Best defense in the league. In the country. I'm going to have them go ahead and beat Wisconsin. I'm going to have also Kentucky end up beating Marquette. I mean, this Kentucky team has a lot of talent on it. Obviously, when you start with the freshman of the year, Reed Shepherd, he's amazing. Obviously, Antonio Reeves has been spectacular this season. Same thing with Rob Dillingham. The big man, definitely a bit questionable, but at the end of the day, they're going to rely on that guard power, and I think that is what was going to help them get into the Elite 8 against Houston. Now we go down, we have Alabama versus Michigan State. Give me the Spartans going to the Elite 8. I like Tom Izzo's team. I know the record is definitely not amazing at 19-14, but trust in Tom Izzo because it is never a bad thing when you have his Michigan Spartans go far in the tournament. Next up, we have New Mexico, Arizona. This is where my Cinderella run is going to end for New Mexico. Arizona, just straight up, I think they have a pretty easy run to the Final Four. I think North Carolina has a couple of areas where they can end up getting upset. Probably not in the first round, but Michigan State possibly, Mississippi State as well, Alabama if they can play some sort of defense. And when it comes to Arizona, I mean, I kind of just trust them over every single team here. Definitely over Long Beach State, definitely over Nevada, even over Baylor if they were able to make it to the Sweet 16, but I do have Arizona. Or I do have New Mexico instead, but I have Arizona advancing to the Elite 8. Next up is Purdue and Kansas. This one's definitely hard. I think I'm going to lean. Kansas is kind of crazy. I kind of want to switch it up from the very beginning. Go Samford here. I mean, Samford versus McNeese would be a crazy round of 32, but I mean, it could happen. This is a prediction bracket, though, so obviously I don't want to go with the guys I want to win. I want to go with the guys that I believe will win. So I'm going to stick with Gonzaga and Kansas. I'm going to lean Kansas, and I'm going to lean Purdue. This would be an amazing Sweet 16 matchup. Hopefully Kansas is healthy at that point. But, yeah, I mean, I could see Kansas get eliminated in the first round, but the way this bracket is shaped, I could also see Kansas getting into the Final Four. This team has a bunch of directions they can go this March Madness. Next up is Oregon, Tennessee. Give me Tennessee by a hair, even though I can see Oregon making another upset and getting to Elite Eight, but give me Tennessee. Now for a spot to the Final Four, we have UConn versus Iowa State. Give me UConn. We have Houston versus Kentucky. Give me Houston. I'm going to say that defense is able to shut down that elite guard trio in Shepard, Dillingham, and Reeves. And then down below in the West, we have Michigan State and Arizona. Give me the Wildcats. I'm going to have Michigan State's Cinderella run. I mean, they're a very notable team, so I don't know if I'd call it a Cinderella run, but I'm going to have it end here. Arizona State getting into the Final Four. Finally, we have Purdue and Tennessee. Purdue doesn't really make the Final Four. That's kind of making me want to change something up right here. But I guess give me Purdue. You know what? Should I just hate on Purdue? I might just want to hate on Purdue. Let me think about it. You know what? Even though Purdue haven't gone to the Final Four since 1980, I'm going to trust my gut. I'm going to have them go to the Final Four this time, even though it's definitely hard. UConn over Arizona. Best team in the nation. I mean, come on. Not really too much you could say about that one. Yeah, they've just been playing amazingly these last couple of weeks. Blew through the Big East. Did have a little bit struggles against St. John's, but overall they would just have led the whole game. Arizona was not able to win the Pac-12 championship and did fall to Oregon. But I'm going to have them get to the Final Four but lose to UConn. Houston, Purdue. I think if these teams matched up, I think Houston is like by far the better team. I think this score would probably be around 71 to like 59. I think Houston's that much better in my opinion. And then finally, I think Kelvin Sampson will find a way to, stop Zach Edey from getting all his buckets and rebounds. Finally, we have UConn, Houston, two best teams in the nation in my opinion. I'm going to give it to UConn. They're going to be my national champions for this year. Best team in the country. I think at this point, pretty consensus that they're the best team in the country. Guess I can make a combined score. UConn versus Houston. I'll probably lean 150 would be 75-75. I think it'll probably be a little bit more low scoring than that. Let's say it's like 63 to 68, which is what, 131? 63-68, 131. Low scoring championship game, but UConn is able to pull it out and are the first back-to-back champions since Florida in 2007. So there's my bracket. I'm going to have the UConn Huskies taking it. And yeah, national champions once again. Thanks for watching this video. Hope you guys have a great March Madness. I mean, a sports fan's favorite time of the year. You could definitely make that argument. But yeah, thanks for watching this video. See you next time. Peace.